We've got something really special today, Dee.
Yes, I know. I'm super excited about it.
Me too.
Welcome to the Garden Angelus, where we talk about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma, where I garden on 7.5 acres out in the country.
And I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana, where I have a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about a third of an acre.
We call ourselves Garden Angelus because we are evangelists for gardening. We love gardening and we want you to love it too.
Yes, we do. And we aren't afraid to spill the beans and tell all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But that's enough of who, what, when, where. Let's move on to this week's episode. Hello, Dee.
Hello, Carol. How does your garden grow?
You know what? It's wintertime. It's not growing at all outside.
I don't mean outside. I know you've got stuff going on inside. Tell me about your lily of the valley. I wanted to say lilies of the valley, and that didn't sound right. Tell me about your lily of the valley pips.
You know, my big experiment was to try to use pips from my own garden.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, the first little flower thing came up and dried up before it opened, and a second one's coming up, and they're awfully puny. And so I think I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to get bigger pips. I don't think my pips were very big compared to the ones we bought.
Yeah. That would make it harder. Although the last ones we bought, my pips dried up before they opened. So I don't know what causes that. I guess I could do some research. I also had the same thing happen with some of my paper whites. Some of them sent up a bloom stalk and it just went to seed instead. So don't ask me.
But my microgreens are growing good. So I'm enjoying growing those this winter. And then I put them on a salad at lunchtime and they're delicious. And that's it.
Have you tried them on soup? They're really good on soup.
Yes, I have put them on soup, and that is good too. I also want to say, Dee, that we got just a smidgen of snow last week, and it's been cold, so it stayed around wherever there's shade, but in the sun, it's completely gone. But the big news,
what?
Thursday of this week, which would be the day after this podcast episode drops, we're supposed to get 5 to 8 inches of snow, which will be the first really big snow if that happens.
So that same thing, that same front that is bringing you guys snow on Thursday is bringing us ice and snow probably on Wednesday.
Ice is the worst. Ice is the worst in the wintertime.
So I'm really hoping that it's a much ado about nothing, that it's Shakespearean snow, as you say.
Yeah, Shakespearean snow. But tell me, it looks like you've been dipping into your house plants and doing a bunch of stuff.
I have. Yesterday, I repotted several of my house plants. I had a little sedum that was stuck in the same teacup that was from my daughter's baby shower, and my granddaughter is almost 2. That little sedum stayed in that teacup and managed to grow and do something. And so I looked at it the other day, and the teacup was turned on its side, and I was like, oh, I feel sorry for you. I should do better by you. So I pulled it out, stuck it in a Guy Wolf pot that's just a #1 pot. So it's really tiny. And it looks so cute. I'll take a picture of it and put it on my story. And then also I replanted my jade plant and another plant for the life of me. Oh, I know what it was. Yeah. No, it's Prince of Orange. And so I replanted it too. And that was about maybe a few other things, but not much after that. But here's the big story. Remember that begonia?
I see the big story.
The begonia that I bought a week ago. I set it up on top of my mantle because I thought I'd be really happy there because they had great big leaves. And I thought it needs some shade, right? No, it likes bright light. It almost died. So I took the dead leaves off.
Wow, just in 1 week, Dee?
Well, I'm good at killing plants, girl. Nobody's better. So I probably should have read the tag, which said it needed bright light. But
yeah, those tags, they might have information on it.
It's a little bit like when you've cooked a long time and you think, I don't need to read that recipe. And then it has some step that you go, oh, should have read the recipe. Okay.
Yeah.
On to our quote.
Okay, here's our quote. A high hat often covers a soft head. This is as much a reminder to myself as to anyone else. It has many applications. Cecil Howdyshell.
There's Mr. Howdyshell.
Hey, Dee, our flower this week is Crinum.
It sure is. And we've got something really special today.
Yeah, because neither one of us know a thing about Crinums, do we?
Not much.
So we got a big surprise for our listeners.
We do.
We have a special guest for the first time ever.
I know. I hope everybody's really excited.
Jenks Farmer, the author of I should say, I don't know what quite the word is, the seminal work on Crinum, is here in the house.
He is.
He should speak up so he can start talking now.
Wait, was that my cue?
Yes.
That was your cue.
Oh, hey, I'm happy to be in the house with the seminal work on Crinums. You started using that word immediately. Like, do you think most of your guests know? Are your people, everybody out there know what a Crinum is?
Oh, heavens, no, I'm from Indiana. No, we don't know. No.
Hey, one of Jenks' biggest fans actually is one of my garden coaching clients, and he knows all about Crinums because he's talked to Jenks.
Wow.
So tell us how you got interested in Crinums and what made you decide to write the book about them.
Okay, well, first, how I got interested in Crinums, that would take us way back, okay? So
that's okay.
Like to the 70s. I got my first Crinum when I was, I don't know, in fourth grade, I guess. And
wow.
Yeah. Now I know that at that time that Crinum was about 80 years old.
Double wow.
So these are pretty long-lived bulbs. They're big old bulbs. I think when I was a little boy, the most fascinating thing to me was what was underground. You know, that there was this delicate, pretty, fragrant flower that came up every year, but I couldn't get the organism. I couldn't get the beast out of the ground.
If you've ever dug a Crinum, anybody who's ever dug up Crinums knows exactly what you're talking about, that it's a big bulb and it makes a big kind of colony, and they're hard to dig up.
Yeah, these colonies can be 400 pounds and they can be.
Yeah, they can.
Wow. And I read that some of these are 18 inches down in the ground.
Oh, they can be a lot more than that. But yeah, that's our planting depth. If you were to buy a Crinum from our mail order nursery and it shows up in Indiana, and I said, I would have instructions on it, dig a hole 18 to 24 inches to plant this bulb.
Sounds like a lot of work, Dee.
It's a lot of work. Now,
it is, but wherever you put them, they stay there. You know what I mean? So it's a good established plant. But I don't want to take up Jenks's time. So tell us, why do you love them so?
I think partly the memory. I love that they carry memories anytime. No matter where I went, I can show up in North Texas and somebody's going to come up to me and say, hey, I have this Crinum that my Aunt Lily brought when she moved here from Baton Rouge, and now all of my grandchildren have it. I love that history. And as a plantsman, I have always believed that we need to use plants that thrive in our climates without lots of fertilizer and water and things that actually harm the environment. And Crinums do that. They're just tough as nails. They're adapted to the South. And then, of course, why anybody loves a plant is that the things are just spectacular.
Yeah, they do have spectacular blooms. And you're definitely speaking our listeners' love language when you talk about things that are easy care, don't harm the environment, because that's all Carol and I talk about.
Well, easy care once you dig that 18-inch hole, which I'm still kind of. So
Carol,
what I really
quit whining about that hole.
What I really love about your book and your other book too, and we should mention that you're also the author of Deep-Rooted Wisdom, Skills and Stories from Generations of Gardeners, is that these books, you tell stories. And that's what I love about these books. Your books is it's just one story after the next, your travels. And, the first time I met you, I believe that you came to Indianapolis and did a booth at the GardenCom show.
Oh yeah. Long time.
And I had never heard of a Crinum. I'm from Indiana. So I tried and killed one. You gave us little ones and I killed it.
So they are considered plants for the deep South.
Yes.
When I started working with Crinums, I couldn't give them away to Northerners. But because I worked in botanical gardens and public gardens, part of what we did through them and then later through our nursery was sent these things out and said, let's test this. Let's see if that's actually true. So we do know now Crinums will grow in Pittsburgh and Long Island. And I actually know somebody in Indianapolis who has babied one through a number of years.
Is that my good buddy Irvin?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you can count him because he's such a wizard with plants.
He really
grows
is.
some crazy tropicals that none of the rest of us would ever even try.
Yeah. But Crinums do work in pots, and you can take them in like you would a canna lily. When Dee and we were talking about these really deep, big ones, they're also little ones.
Right.
We have our littlest Crinum is about 3 inches tall, which, from the space that I garden in, that's hard to see. So it's not one of my favorites, but for somebody who's growing in a pot on a patio, some of the little ones work beautifully. The other thing I want to help people understand, we've talked about the bulbs, but not really the flowers. If you imagine Christmas amaryllis.
Yes.
Crinums are related to amaryllis, but they're like an amaryllis on steroids. So they're a lot more leaf and a 3.5 to 5 foot tall stalk of flowers.
Wow. That's tall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Jenks, I've killed a couple of Crinums too. And the only one I've been able to grow in my garden, but bear in mind, my garden is more like 7A, 6B, just because I live out in the country like you do. And I live on hills and I have a lot of microclimates. So the only one that, of course, I've been able to grow is milk and wine.
Yeah. And that's the most common one that you would see into colder zones.
Right. And this lady gave me some, and I've been able to keep them alive for years because they're easy to grow. But I would like to try, I think I want to try something else again and put it in one of my microclimates. I'm going to give it a try.
I want you to try one called Pink Flamingo.
Okay.
Because it has a similar parentage to that milk and wine.
Okay.
So which would mean that it has some hardiness, and I've had good luck with it. I have a friend that's grown it in Bowling Green, Ohio. I don't know what the zone is there, but probably 6B.
Now, Jenks, so Dee gets to grow a pink flamingo. I'm kind of jealous because I want to grow one in a container as well in the Midwest.
So, yeah. So if you're going to grow Crinums in containers, which lots of people do. And I have 2 people I interview in the book, somebody from Kansas City and somebody from Baltimore who grow in containers and then protect those in the wintertime. So they take those containers up against the house. They don't take them inside. They just push them up against the house where they're warm. You can bring Crinums inside completely and grow them as an indoor plant. If you were going to do that, I would recommend a different one, Carol. Like Jubilee is one that I think is a really pretty little one, and its flowers smell like Fruit Loops.
Ooh, I'm going to get Jubilee then.
Or there's one called Mini Hune, which has purple leaves. It really looks almost like a giant liriope. Do you grow liriope?
I do. Dee does not like liriope. Don't say that bad word of Dee. But yes.
Okay. All right. It looks like a daylily with purple leaves.
Okay, now you're speaking Dee's language. Daylily. What was that one called?
That one's called Mini Hune. You know what the Mini Hunes are?
No.
No. I'm not from Hawaii. I've just read about this. In Hawaii, there are these sort of mythical leprechaun-like beings who live in the forest. So if you come downstairs one day, if you come outside one day and all the furniture is turned over in the yard, you say, "Oh, the Mini Hunes were here."
I am so getting that. So
that is so you, isn't it? Because she has a whole thing about her garden fairies, and they're always doing stuff in her garden that
never have turned over all the chairs though.
Well, they're kind of small to do that.
That's true. So, I mean, that's the thing. So we were saying at a break that this Crinum book is one that even a Midwest gardener like me would read on a very snowy night. And we're about to have a very snowy night. because it just gives you that good, warm feeling, even if you can't grow it. The book is so full of great stories. And like I said, this is how all books about a single genus of plants should be written, Jenks.
Well, thanks, Carol. I had, people have told me for years to write a book on crinums because I've been growing them for 30 years. And there's never been a book on crinum. And I hesitated because I thought it'll be boring, right? Or it'll end up being like an encyclopedia.
Hardly.
So I worked really hard to make this full of stories and horticulture history to make it interesting to gardeners who are maybe not even going to grow this plant, but just want to delve into somebody else's obsession a little bit.
I love it.
Yeah, all gardeners have their obsessions, right? So they'll totally identify whether it's a tomato or roses. Yours is the crinum, and I think crinums are a wonderful plant. Smells so good and fun.
I can't wait to have one actually grow and flower in a container. I'm absolutely getting mini hoony. So, Jenks, you have a farm, obviously, where you are selling crinum, and the jenksfarmer.com is the best way to go find those bulbs.
Yeah, so that's our website, and we do specialty crinums. We ship living bulbs. So when you order from us, depending on the bulb, you'll get something that's about 18 inches long, weighs about 2 pounds, and has living roots. So it's ready to go. I want to be clear, there are lots of ways to get crinums. There are other mail order sources that are awesome nurseries. Some of my mentors down in Texas have mail order nurseries that specialize in this. And then also you can get them in box stores sometimes, like in those bags, those net bags.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's no box store around Indianapolis selling crinums in net bags. If they are, then they're scamming people. They're scamming, right. Not in Indiana, but
they sell other things that are not, hardy for your area.
Don't work.
Yeah.
So we do mail order, and it's a very small company. It's me and my partner, and we have interns, college interns every year. Right now we have a high school intern. Matthew works with us. Two other people work with us. Everybody's part-time and has interesting lives, and so we all come together on this little farm to do this little special thing and share our plants.
Well, that is wonderful. And again, the book is Crinum: Unearthing the History and Cultivation of the World's Biggest Bulbs. And we will put a link for our listeners if they want to buy that. And I don't see why after hearing us talk about it, why everybody's not going to go buy it. I'm sure they are.
Well, thanks, Carol and Dee.
It also has beautiful pictures too. We should say
beautiful.
Thank you. Like, anybody who's a gardener, like you two both, I'm sure you have 35,000 slides. So if nothing else, writing this book was just a way to share my pictures.
There you go. That's the best.
Yeah, slides. You're old school. Yeah. Well, Jenks, it was a pleasure to have you be our first guest ever on the Gardenangelist, and we won't wait too long before maybe inviting you back sometime.
Okay, thanks. I'll see you too soon.
Okay, tell your mom we said hi.
Yes, tell your mama we said hi. And also, just next time, just come on and we'll just chat about gardening. That'd be fun too.
Okay, yeah, we grow vegetables. We practically feed ourselves. Mixed into our rows of crinums are 75 feet of okra. We have tons of cabbage ready right now, so I'd love to talk about feeding too.
Oh, well, that'd be awesome because we always have a vegetable topic.
Okay.
All right. Well, take care.
All right.
Thank you so much. Bye. That was a lot of fun. Are you ready for the next quote?
I am. Let no one think that real gardening is a bucolic and meditative occupation. It is an insatiable passion, like everything else to which man gives his heart. That's by Carol. I think it's Capek.
Yeah, very famous garden writer from the 1920s and 30s, I think.
Yeah, only you would know that, I think.
But insatiable passion, I mean, that has to talk about our good friend Jenks and Crinum.
No kidding. It really does. and telling stories.
Exactly.
Okay, so the veggie is bitter gourd, aka bitter melon. And you looked up a little more about it than I did, and we actually found seeds. Didn't we find seeds at Botanical Interest?
Botanical Interest has a variety called Number One Bitter Melon Seeds. And then Baker Creek also has seeds.
For a bunch of different kinds.
Yeah. I found the botanical name and a pronunciation guide.
Thank God.
You going to give it a shot, or am I going to give it a shot?
I'm going to let you do that one.
Momordica carentia.
Momordica carentia.
Momordica carentia.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Great.
So I did go, and Botanical Interest had some really nice information. And I also found out a third name for this is balsam pear, which I like. What?
Can we talk about why we're talking about this? Can I say why?
Yeah, what's your idea?
My friend Vandy Shorey, who's on Instagram, we became friends on Instagram a long time ago, and she's Indian, and she was cooking it one day on her story, and then she shared the finished product. It looked delicious, and she stir fried it. So she got me interested in it, and then I thought we need to do this one because this is one we haven't even touched. So
exactly. And that's the first time I ever heard of bitter gourd or bitter melon. Is we had a consultant where I worked who was from India, and his soon-to-be wife was moving to the United States, and he was looking for a source for bitter gourd because he said she loved it. And I'm like, well, I've never heard of it.
Right.
But as it turns out, you can buy it we have tons of Asian grocery stores in the area. They all have it, and it's becoming more and more popular. And so I have seen it at our grocery stores.
And I've never seen it at a big grocery store, but I have seen it we also have a wonderful Asian grocery store called Cow Win in Oklahoma City. And then Vandy said that she got hers at I think it's a Middle Eastern grocery store or an Indian grocery store. And she told me where to go. She also said that you need the fruits, after you cut them in half and take out the seeds, just like you would with pretty much any melon or any squash, winter squash especially. Then you need to soak them, I think, in salt water to get some of the bitterness out of it. And so you soak them a while, and then you do them with stir frying, and it looked really, really good. And by the way, they're super good for you. They have tons of vitamin C and stuff in them.
Yes. And so I was reading more. Botanical Interest says the bitterness is due to them having quinine in them, which is one of the reasons that they also appear in Asian medicines.
Right.
And that the sharp flavor, because the word bitter is like, I don't want to grow that.
Right.
It gets absorbed with other flavors in the cooking. So it has, they said, a pleasing cooling effect when eaten in the heat of summer.
Which makes sense why it's so popular in India, because they have that long summer period. And it'd also be easy to grow because I assume it's a tropical vine. And it is an interesting plant. The quinine is an old remedy for malaria. And also, right. Did you know it's used for restless leg syndrome? It's still used for that.
I heard that. I think I've heard that.
My mom took it for a long time because she had restless legs.
Well, the other thing is we should mention that this is a relative of the cucumber and the pumpkin and all those. It's in the gourd family.
Makes sense.
But the variety at Botanical Interest is what is considered a shorter variety, meaning the vines would only get 6 to 8 feet long. So you need a trellis or a fence.
Yeah.
And if you go to Baker Creek, some of those, I'm sure, are mammoth vines, more on the size of maybe what you would expect with a watermelon or a pumpkin. So when you are deciding to grow bitter melon in your garden, you need to give it a lot of room to trellis.
Yeah.
A lot of room.
You need a lot of room, and you need a very long warm period to, give it time to mature. Right. I would love it if somebody grows it this year. I don't think I'm going to have time, but
I don't have time or space, but I did look up the North Carolina State Extension, which is I often look up things and I put in like bitter gourd space extension. And then I know I'll get an extension article just versus somebody's blog post or whatever.
Right.
And they said it can be toxic in large quantities, which just goes to show, you got to be careful sometimes with new foods. And if you're not sure about it, eat it in small quantities, make sure it's not poisonous. And it's not poisonous unless you would eat a whole bunch.
Right. If you ate a whole bunch. And that goes to a lot of things, and a lot of things people enjoy. And I'm thinking of poke salad. You have to know how to cook it before you can eat it, but it is delicious. And so I would like to try it. I would like to taste it. Maybe
so Dee, you have 7 acres. Can't you find a spot to just put a bitter melon gourd and see what happens?
I don't think so, because I don't have anywhere to water it. It's always an issue about water really here.
Oh, I was going to say, how about the meadow? But that doesn't have a source of water.
No, it doesn't. And also it's a meadow. I don't really want to add a bitter gourd to it. I'll be honest. You could probably grow it in your compost pile. That would be a good place because, they stay moist.
I'm not growing it. You're growing it.
No, I'm not. I'm not growing it.
Okay. One of our listeners needs to grow bitter gourd for us and tell us how it works.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. You want to do the next quote?
I do. So please, oh please, we beg, we pray, we go throw your TV set away, and in its place, you can install a lovely bookshelf on the wall. Roald Dahl.
Who was my children's favorite author growing up. They loved him.
That almost had a Dr. Seuss sound to it.
It did, but sometimes he did that kind of thing. Okay, so on the bookshelf is Jenks's book.
Crinum, Unearthing the History and Cultivation of the World's Biggest Bulb by Augustus Jenks Farmer.
That's his real name. And I love that.
So I am totally getting Mini Huna Crinum. I'm totally getting it.
Yeah, I think he's going to send it to you, which is even cooler. This is a beautiful book. We talked about it when we were talking to Jenks. It's got beautiful photographs. It has lots of good information on how to grow it. And anybody can grow it in pots. And it is a worthy thing to grow just because it's so unusual. And I think that's why our friend grows it up in Indianapolis.
That's right. All right. Next quote is yours, Dee.
A mouse never entrusts his life to only one hole. Plautus. Okay, this just made me laugh because we really aren't talking about mice. We're actually talking about voles. But
it seems like a fitting quote for this section.
It so does. It so does, because they're all in the same horrible little family. So my dear friend and client, Susan, sent me this lovely email. She actually texted me first because all of my clients text me. And she told me that she had figured out a solution to her vole problem. And she didn't know it, but she was having a vole invasion in her yard.
Oh my gosh. Horrible thought. Horrible thought.
It is horrible. And oh my gosh. So she had a problem. And so everybody always tells people who have voles and moles, well, you can just poison them. But Susan has dogs, right, and her neighbors have dogs.
Right.
And she also worries about owls because owls eat voles. Right. And so she did not want to use anything, on them. And not only that, she kept losing plants. And I've had this happen before too. The plant is fine. And then suddenly the plant is dead, just like that. And you go, what the heck?
The voles ate the roots.
They eat the roots. And so you pull out your plant and it doesn't have any roots. It has these little chew marks all over the bottom. It's very infuriating. So she tried mothballs and they just kicked them out.
Yeah, they don't work.
And I just had to laugh because I could just see this vole going, don't stick that down in my hole. And then she realized she had runs everywhere. And so they tried various things. All right. And she discovered that they loved mulch. So she scraped all of her mulch back to find their holes because they hide under that mulch. And then she decided, I'm going to trap them with mouse traps so that quote does work.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with mouse traps was if she did the mouse traps out in the open, she might accidentally catch something she didn't mean to catch. So then she came up with this brilliant, brilliant idea. So she bought play sand from Home Depot and she filled and plugged all the holes she could find to figure out where the runs were and where the holes were. Okay. And if those holes reopened, then she took the trap right at the top of the hole and then she covered it with I think it was a plastic bucket. Was it a plastic bucket?
I think so. Yeah. A bucket
or a trash can. She calls it a large planter, a box, or an upside down trash can. And then she would put a heavy rock on top of it. And that way she wouldn't catch birds or anything else. she caught so many voles. In fact, she gave me in her email this perfect little result. So here we go. Final result. And her husband put it in Google to keep it for her. Traps confirmed, killed in action, 45.
Wow. That is amazing.
Possible killed in action were 2. In the greenhouse, she caught 2 mice. And in the pool skimmer, there was a confirmed kills. She didn't put mouse traps in there. They just landed in the pool skimmer of 4. And so the Volex, which I think was the poison, killed nobody. So there you go. 47 for sure. Almost.
That's amazing. I've only ever killed 1 vole at my house that I know of.
And her closing piece was also, I hope this made you chuckle a little bit because it sure does me looking back on it.
Oh, yeah.
And then, she said, I love it that you're my gardening friend. And I love it too, because she is delightful. And this was a great tip, which is why we shared it on the
Exactly.
dirt.
That's exactly how I'm going to trap voles if, God forbid, I end up with an invasion of them.
I really hope I don't have an invasion of them, but if I do, I now know how to get rid of them. So thank you so much, Susan. We sure appreciate it.
Do you want to know how I killed the 1 vole that I know that I've ever killed?
Yeah.
So I had a snowblower and I finished snow blowing off my driveway and there was a dead vole and I think it got caught in this is a horrible story. Now that I'd say it out loud, I think it got swooped up and spit out.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's not too gross. That works. Well, my current dog, he's a hound dog and he really hates anything in his yard. And I do mean anything. He can't reach birds, which is good. But one day I walked outside and he had them all lined up for me. There were like 4 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, thank you. I appreciate your help.
Yes. Yes. So let's move on to rabbit holes. And I don't know if you went down any rabbit holes. I didn't. I went down this rabbit hole, Dee, and I put this on my newsletter. And it's the most clicked link. We'll put a link in the show notes. But I found these David M. Bird videos. And this guy shows a video of how he makes little people out of acorns. He hot glues them together and puts little arms and legs on them, which is cute all on its own. He calls them becorns. But what is really, really amazing is he sets them up on like a little landscape out in his garden. He makes this beautiful little landscape with mosses and things. And he put it right outside of a bluebird box. And he tried to get a picture of a bluebird's first flight coming out with that becorn on it. And he didn't get that, but he got so many cute pictures. And then there's another video where he made a bunch of becorns and has them like holding out a little basket of bird seed and tries to get like chipmunks and squirrels to take the seed.
Right.
Which went okay, except sometimes the chipmunks and squirrels would take the whole becorn and try to eat it.
As chipmunks and squirrels do.
It's so cute. So I'm going to leave a link to that because now, of course, I would like to find some acorns and make myself. They wouldn't be becorns because only he can make those. But I want to make little acorn people. And I might put them out. I might make some little acorn people and put them out for the world's greatest Easter egg hunt this spring. See if anybody notices.
I'm not going to do that. I don't have time.
I'm going to do that.
But sometimes I think you need a bigger garden. Okay. What's your commission this week?
So this week we are, as I said, we are expecting actual snow, 4 to 8 inches. And so I might be shoveling, work on the microgreens. I don't know, more organization of seeds. And I really, 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 really need to do some winter sowing because now is the time to do that. And I realized after watching a video with our friend Susan Mulvihill in Spokane, Washington.
Mm-hmm, Spokane.
She puts hers way out in her vegetable garden. And I'm like, that's where I need to put mine. Just put them out there in the vegetable garden.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's what Karen does too. She has a little section behind one of her raised beds, and that's where she keeps all of hers.
So anyway, that's what I'm doing. How about you?
Well, I'm going to be kind of busy this week. So I've got to order some flowers. I'm going to order some flowers and I'm going to keep things alive in the greenhouse. And I'm going to, by the way, the sulfur did work. It got rid of those,
Yay.
whatever they were. Were they? Oh, yeah, spider mites. It got rid of the spider mites. I still have some mealybugs, maybe on my coleus. So I got to go out there and look because I bought some safer insect killing soap for those. And we are expecting a giant storm this week on Wednesday. And I'm going to kind of hope it doesn't happen. That's all.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen too. Well, that's it, Dee. We want to thank you for listening to The Garden Angelist. If you like our podcast, please tell your friends about us. Also hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything.
And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, we'd love a 5-star review that helps us get noticed by others. Could you also share our podcast with your garden friends? Word of mouth is still the best way to get the word out there.
Yes, and be sure and check out our show notes for links for more information about today's topics, plus links to our own websites. And if you want to help support us, use the affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we earn a small commission and it costs you nothing.
It was lovely to chat with all of you over the Garden Gate today. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.